You're listening to Carrie Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. Well, we do consider all of our shows important, but this one is extremely important. And go to this website now. If you don't believe me, protectnowllc.com. Our good friend, Robert Siciliano, is back with us. Robert, last time we talked, there was a pandemic going on. Now we're post-pandemic, but we're seeing inflation. We're seeing the fabric of society, shall we say, stretched to the max. How are you supposed to survive and thrive in this kind of world?
Well, lots of people are leading to violence and theft to do just that, to survive. We've seen, throughout the pandemic, alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence all rise, right? We've seen vehicular homicide, car accidents, pedestrian deaths all rise with all the chaos with social media, all the vitriol, all the division. People are as angry as they've ever been, and desperate times lead to desperate measures, okay? There has been an uptick in violence, one-on-one type violence, and there's been an uptick on smash and grab robberies, as we know. And I'm seeing all of that across the board everywhere, all over the country.
Yeah, no doubt this is true. Although I will say it's happening more in, I don't want to get political about it, but in certain, shall we say, progressive states, more so than in others. But the increase in violence, crime is definitely across the board. Hey, just little things like package thefts, annoying, nuisance, costly. What do? You just put more cameras around your house? Is that what you're supposed to do here?
Honestly, if package theft was the only problem, I'd be psyched about that. It's so much worse than that. But as far as package theft is concerned, security cameras are helpful, but a security camera is useless if there isn't a sign that says this house or this home or these packages or this whatever, this premise protected by security surveillance, and that sign being readily, exposed and in sight so that anybody who decides to choose your house as their next target sees that sign first before they get to the front door. We call that layers of protection. The more layers you have, the more secure you're going to be. And, the problem with security cameras is a lot of people just don't actually, bad guys, in this case, porch pirates, don't actually see the security camera and then just go steal the package. So, getting that person stealing the package on film is nice if they can catch the person. But having that sign up that says, hey, be aware, is a deterrent to them actually stealing the package. And then, of course, Amazon has the various services where they can open up your garage door. They can open up the front door to get inside, like the foyer area or the hallway area. You can deliver packages to your place of business, to where else you might actually be. So, you have options, and utilizing all those different options will reduce theft.
Hey, maybe if Amazon gave out just the type of lockers, one that screws down or bolts to your house, and they can just throw the stuff in there and close it. Maybe that would be a solution here. There's an invention for you.
Yeah, well, there actually is. There are devices out there similar to that. So if you search, prevent package theft, you'll actually see Google ads and YouTube videos and TikToks where you can either do it yourself or you can buy something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Yeah, like you say, that's minor in comparison. So layers of security are the key to securing your home, aren't they?
Layers of security. So having a home security system itself, right? So like I, present security awareness training seminars throughout the country to all different groups of people, right? To chief information security officers, to real estate agents, to financial advisors, and you name it, right? And I ask the question all the time. Like one of the first questions I ask is, when I'm doing information security programs, right? Like how to protect your data, your devices, your hardware, your software, your money, and so forth. But part of information security is also protecting yourself and your home, right? Because security all begins with the person. So you are not, as a human being, going to engage in information security practices until you first understand personal security practices when it comes to protecting your home, yourself, your family, and your identity. I'm telling you, like I just know I know how humans function, and they don't care about data security until they care about home security. It's a real thing. Okay. And so I ask my audiences, like, how many of you have a home security system? And generally, it's no more than 10 to 25% of the room raises their hand. Okay. Sure. Now, think about that for a second. If you are, if 20% of the room raises their hand, that means that 80% of the people in the room don't actually have a home security system. Now, understand that statistically, 1.5 to 2 million homes are burglarized in the course of a year. Okay. So that's 15 to 20 million homes in the next decade. All right. But that's been going on now for 30 years.
Yeah, there's nothing new about that.
Yeah. So if you know that 15 to 20 million homes are going to be burglarized in the next decade, why wouldn't you install a home security system? And so then when I asked I asked my audience, well, why don't you have a home security system? The most common response is, I live in a safe neighborhood.
I don't know what that is.
WTF is that? Okay. Because what is a safe neighborhood? Yeah, if you watch baseball, right, you are either out or you're safe. Safe is an absolute. And when you use the word safe, it means you are absolutely safe. And there is no such thing. Now, there are safer neighborhoods, which is fine. You might live in a safer neighborhood than the one down the street or, a couple districts over. But at the same time, if you read the police blotter in your city and town, even in your own neighborhood, there are burglaries, there are home invasions, there are bad things that happen. It may not be once a week. It might be bi-weekly. It may be every month. It may be bi-monthly. It may be every 6 months. It may be once a year, but it does happen. And so when you function in denial and say, well, I live in a safe neighborhood, when I ask those same people, so this is what I often say to people. I go, okay, so I have 22 security cameras between inside and outside of my home. I've invested in all the various technologies. I love this stuff, right? And when I say to my audience, when I say that I have 22 security cameras, what does that say about my character? And what do you think they say?
You're paranoid.
Right, exactly. So I said that, I asked that question in front of 250 chief information security officers. And I go, so all you security people think that because I implement security in my own home that I am mentally ill. And they all laughed. They all thought that was really funny because the cultural view towards somebody who engages in security practices is they must be paranoid. Now think about that. Like, are you paranoid when you lock down your money and protect your bank account? No.
Hey,
you want to protect your bank account.
You know what Sigmund Freud said? Even a paranoid has some real enemies.
Exactly. Right. And so because we live in a society, in a culture that views security as an act of paranoia, instead of actually installing the home security system, recognizing risk even in a safer neighborhood, we do the complete opposite. And we say, it can't happen to me. And the excuses that people give when they don't install that home security system is, I don't want to live like that, they say.
Right.
right?
How do you want to live?
Oh, how do you want to live? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you and I understand you want to live by reducing risk. You want to live that much more secure. You want to do things so that bad guys choose somebody else's house opposed to yours and so forth. Like it's just being smart about the process. But most people function in a level of denial. They do nothing about it and they expose themselves and their families, which is ridiculous.
Oh,
And now you see more and more smash and grabs, more and more burglaries, more and more people just walking down the street with their Rolex watch. A bunch of kids jump out of a car and they assault that person and beat them to the ground for that watch because they think they live in a safe neighborhood. And it's like when you walk around with a $12,000 watch on, I mean, you've got to expect a level of risk.
Yeah, that's a little bait there, huh?
Yeah. So, until we change the culture in regards to functioning in denial, right? And that's what like most people do is denial is like warm, it's comfortable. It's there to avoid stress and anxiety and fear, right? That's people who function in denial, like in life in general, their life is a mess, right? Because they usually have like some like overriding addiction or whatever it might be.
The coping mechanism.
The coping mechanism, exactly.
Defense mechanism.
Yeah. And
reality.
Yeah. And it's a normal thing. Like denial actually is a good thing to have. Like it's a good thing to possess. It allows us to function. But at the same time, if we avoid the truth in such a way where we do nothing, well, it's stifling and it's going to definitely affect the quality of your life. And in this case, the security of your home, of your money, of your family, and everything else. And most people, when it comes to security, choose to look at it as, oh, security is about paranoia. It can't happen to me. And they function in denial and do nothing about it. And they become victimized. And it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
It can be about properly managing risk in such a way where you understand the risk and you put various systems in place. You do as much to reduce that risk as necessary. It's where it, protects you to the degree where you have a handle on it. And as long as you do that, you become a much tougher target than the rest of the sheep that are out there.
Hey, remember at one time, seatbelts were considered like too uncomfortable. Don't do them. But now you don't get into your car without putting on your seatbelt. And it's the same thing. These people have a mistaken belief is it can't happen to me.
Yeah.
Anytime you believe that it can happen to you, the odds go up that it will happen to you.
I use that example in all my presentations all the time. And it's like, when you put your seatbelt on today, I mean, obviously, a lot of people put the seatbelt on because if you don't, the car will keep dinging at you, right? But ultimately, like we put our seatbelt on because we know it's the smart thing to do, right? And you don't put your seatbelt on because you're paranoid. You put your seatbelt on because you want to reduce risk. You don't want to end up going through the windshield. You don't want to get killed. You don't want to lose control of your vehicle and then mow down a family of 5 walking on the sidewalk because a deer runs in front of you. It's a smart thing to do. And once we get over that hump and look at security as a good thing, as a feature, as a benefit, as something we want to engage in, not because we're afraid or because something bad just happened, but because proactively it's a smart thing to do, then not only will your home and your family and your stuff be that much more secure, most people begin to gear their mindset towards protecting their identity, protecting their credit, protecting their finances, protecting their data, protecting their devices. Like it's a natural progression. And the problem here is that even those that are responsible for protecting all of our networks, all of our data, all of our bank accounts, all of our everything at the highest levels of government, the highest levels of corporation, your chief information security officers, your chief security officers, your chief technology officers, and so forth, are the same people that don't have the home security system.
That's pathetic. It's pathetic. I look at it, like you said, it's risk and it's a numbers game. So it's the same thing if hey, I can cut my chances of getting lung cancer by 95% by not smoking cigarettes. It's not because I'm paranoid. It's because it's a real risk that I can virtually eliminate just by taking a certain action. There was a video taken by, I think it was the Plano Police Department, and there was a home burglar. He was a druggie, and he had a 13-year span of not getting caught. They knew he was out there. They didn't know who he was because he wasn't in the system, but hundreds and hundreds of burglaries. And he gave a list of things that he looked at. And number one was, can he see into the house? Can you look into the house and see stuff? All right. Because then you can see, is the entranceway shielded from view from the street by trees, shrubs, etc.? And does it have a wireless burglar alarm? He didn't want to break into any house with a wireless burglar alarm because it couldn't be deactivated. In theory, they can be. In reality, it's a lot more difficult because you have to know where all the sensors are. And dogs. He personally didn't want to deal with dogs. Some burglars feel otherwise, but most of them don't want to deal with a dog because they're noisy and potentially dangerous. And, the guy just went on and on about what he looked for, and the ability to look inside the home was the key thing.
Yeah.
So if you can cut your odds of being burglarized by 70, 85, 95%, why wouldn't you do it?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Fury Gold Mines is a Canada-focused exploration and development company committed to aggressively growing its scalable, high-grade gold assets with major drill campaigns planned across its 3.5 million ounce portfolio. Fury is led by a management team of proven explorers and developers with a track record of success in advancing and financing project development. Fury Gold Mines is well positioned to create value for investors with low-risk development growth and the potential for a new major discovery. Fury Gold Mines trades on the TSX and NYSE American under the ticker FURY. To learn more, go to furygoldmines.com. That's furygoldmines.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network. The information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Exactly. Look at reducing risk is about just making smart decisions, right? And also in our culture, we adopt like fatalistic attitudes. I did a presentation in front of a bunch of realtors a few weeks ago, and I asked the question like, why don't you have the home security system? And one of the agents, she raised her hand and she says, well, my husband says if they want to get in, that they're going to get in anyways. So why bother? Which is like, okay, so because they can break into your house, you're just going to let them and not do anything about it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you have that fatalistic, defeatist, pessimistic attitude when you can maybe put a sign outside that says this house protected by ADT that you bought off of eBay, to reduce that risk, or even installing the home security system for $1 a day for monitoring? Like, why wouldn't you do that? And the thing is, like, when somebody breaks into your house, they're often hyped up on some type of a drug. They're nervous, they're crazy. Sometimes they're violent. It's not uncommon. I'm going to get a little graphic for a second, and I apologize. It's not uncommon for a bad guy to like pull his pants down and poop on your living room floor because he's so nervous. Like, that's a real thing. And you walk into a burglary, your house is ransacked with poop in your floor. Like, when that happens, you develop a black cloud over your property where you don't even want to be there anymore. Because when your castle is invaded like that, you just don't want to live there any longer.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do something? Because we have this false sense of security. It can't happen to me, my house, and like if you have, and I use this example all the time, that fatalistic attitude, right? Growing up, I don't know about, you, the environment you were in, and, if you ever heard this, but when I was growing up, and you talk about self-defense, you talk about rape prevention, right? Because, young women, 1 in 4 young women at some point in their life will be sexually assaulted. Like, those are the stats. It's awful, 1 in 4, going off to college, like, that's a big deal, right? And when I was growing up, one of the things that I used to hear, they would tell women is, let it happen so it doesn't get any worse. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Like that's like I used to hear that. I'm like, why would you dispel that kind of advice when if you could offer resistance, you get a better chance of getting away, which is true. Like studies show at this point, like 9 out of 10 women who fight off their attacker get away. 9 out of 10. Like that's like 90% chance. Would you play the lottery if you had a 90% chance of winning? Of course you would.
Yeah.
You know? So why would you have that fatalistic? You would not have that fatalistic discussion with your daughter going off to college. Listen, you know, if you're going to get sexually assaulted, you probably should just, you know, lay back and, you know, do nothing because, you know, it could get worse. Like, would you have that level of discussion? Would you tell her, poke him in the eyes, bite off his face, like bite down in his lip until your teeth
anything
meet?
You can bite. And
yes.
Throat, go for the throat, and eyes, go for the eyes, man. Once you get hit in the eye, you are immobilized.
An eyelash in the eyes makes you immobile. You know, so it's like, so my philosophy, my theory has always been all security is personal. Even enterprise level information security ends up being personal because it's the CISO, the guy, the gal that's responsible for tightening up that network. It's their mindset towards security that determines whether or not that network is properly secured. And if that CISO doesn't have a home security system because he thinks he lives in a safe neighborhood, he is FOS. Yeah. And he is not going to do his job effectively.
Hey, and maybe that should be a question. Do you have a home security system? Now, in Florida here, the wired systems, the ADTs, had deficiencies, and of course they're going to figure them out. But the number of criminals who can actually deactivate an alarm, you know, there was a gang that was called the Pillowcase Gang that was able to do it. But knowing that, you can virtually immunize any alarm system from what they call it, crash protection, smash, and disable, right? Because you have, like, you go in the front door, you got a 45-second delay, and you go grab the box off the wall, pull it off, or you cut wires. That's what they were doing. But nowadays, it's just not as real a threat. So the alarms offers much more better protection. Will the police get there in time? That's a separate issue, and that's something we got to deal with as well. But the key is to make your place, your data, whatever it is that you're securing, not as attractive. Let somebody else's house without alarm, or somebody else's car that's got property on the front seat, valuable property that's out there for the world to see. They'll go for the easier one because in the end, all criminals are opportunists. And just like you're calculating risk, the criminal is calculating risk. It might be skewed because they're on drugs, but they're still assessing risk of, is this house a good one to steal from? Is this car, whatever it is this network a good place to steal from? Doesn't matter. Yeah.
You know, if everybody had the mindset that you and I do, and most likely like a good portion of your audience, you know, there'd be less crime. Bad guys would be effectively put in their place. Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman has a quote in his book On Combat, which is also the first part of the movie American Sniper with Chris Kyle. Mm-hmm. And it talks about how there's 3 types of people in this world. And those 3 types of people are, you know, sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs, right? Yeah. And I think that, like, pretty much like a good 95% of all the population are essentially, you know, sheep, right? I think that from my studies, and I've been doing what I'm doing now for 30 plus years, I'm pretty confident that 97% of all people are good. They're good natured. They're good hearted. They come out of their mama trustworthy. Okay. And I'm pretty confident in my research that 3% of all human beings across the planet are bad. Yeah, 3%. I think that's the number.
I think that's accurate, but they can cause a lot of havoc, those 3%.
Yeah, 3%. And I have a number of different studies that I've put together regarding like sex offenders and child predators and prison populations, that it all boils down to about 3% of the world are extremely dysfunctional people. And so they are the wolves. Okay, they're often called 1%ers. It's actually 3%ers. And so 3% of the world is wolves. 95+% of the population are sheep, right? And I think that probably less than 10% of the world ultimately are, sheepdogs. And those are people like you and I that are like managing risk at such a level where we understand what our options are, both physically and virtually, in our homes, in our businesses, to the degree where we are actively participating in our security at all times. We realize and recognize that security is 24/7, 365, that security never sleeps, that security is ongoing. It's a process that you need to engage in, and that it's something that if you think about and you put to work and put to action, then you have less to be concerned about, less to worry about, but there's obviously always something to do, right?
One thing I saw, it's funny you make the analogy, sheepdog. The safest neighborhoods, statistically, besides economics and everything else, are the neighborhoods with the highest dog ownership, because those people are out and about walking their dogs on pretty regularly, 2-3 times a day. And when you have enough of them, there's always somebody out on the street. And the criminal element avoids those neighborhoods like the plague because the opportunity just isn't there.
Right. Yeah. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be caught. Like, they also have to consider risk reduction. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Robert, appreciate this little primer on holistic security, because it's not just your house, it's your person, it's your property, it's your data, it's your family, it's everything.
It's your mindset.
Yeah. It's the security mindset. And I guess I've always been a bit paranoid because I just figure, one time I had some guys doing work in my house, and a pair of cufflinks, expensive and really personal cufflinks, disappeared. After that, everything's locked up when people come into my house.
Yeah. So even for yourself, right? When you say, I've always been a bit paranoid, even for yourself, right? If we change the definition of what that actually fundamentally means for ourselves and look at the actual definition of what it actually is. Like, personally, frankly, I have family members. I have a specific family member that is in fact paranoid. And if she's not on her medication, it's awful, because she is completely diseased with the world around her, that she really does physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually believe that people are out to get her. And it's awful, because her husband has contacted me and said, hey, can you talk, your cousin down off the ledge here, because she thinks that we're being bugged and the neighbors are peering into the windows. And,
yeah, that's a disease.
It's awful. I mean, it's awful. It's awful for him. It's awful for her. It's awful for me. It's awful because she is out of control. And security is all about control. It's the complete opposite of being diseased. It's a complete opposite of being paranoid. So it's not that we're paranoid. It's that we are unfortunately aware of the risks that we face and we have to engage in. And when we are proactive in that way, because maybe we've been burned, which 80% of all people will be, right? We don't have that fundamental trust in others like we wish we had, knowing that really trust is inherent in human beings. We come out of our mama by default trusting human beings. Like, we trust by default. We are an interdependent species that require trust. And without that trust, we couldn't possibly function in an interdependent society. You wouldn't be able to get in your car and drive down the street heading north while cars are coming at you going south. And the only thing that separates you from them is a double yellow line on the ground. You wouldn't be able to get in your car if you didn't trust. You couldn't get in a plane if you didn't trust. So it's not about paranoia. It's about recognizing risk.
Yeah, trust. You trust when you wake up in the morning that the lights are going to go on, your electric's working, your car is going to run. Everything's built on trust. And everything. So just being aware, paranoia equals being aware of legitimate risks that can be assessed and are apparent to the trained eye, right?
Exactly. Yep. Agreed.
That's really it. Well, hey, we'll redefine paranoia. Robert, appreciate your coming on.
Appreciate you.
Hey, tell us the best place to find you these days on the web, how we connect with you.
Yeah, so I got a couple different properties. Protect Now LLC, protectnowllc.com is where you can find me. We offer, obviously me presenting live in front of your audience, virtual chief information security type services where our team will go in either on site or virtually and tighten up your network. And then, cybersecurity insurance, you name it, like we're there to make sure that your business is tightened up.
All right. Excellent. Appreciate it. Links in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Got a question for Robert? Shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Any other questions, just fire off an email. We'll get back to you. Hey, send your comments and post them on the YouTube channel. Robert, a pleasure. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.